Our first speaker tonight has been with SAFE since it began, and she's the point person for the Water Committee. You won't find anyone who knows more about Southern Illinois water and fracking and how they don't mix than Tabby. Please welcome Tabitha Tripp.
Thank you all for being here. This is a remarkable crowd, and I'm just so excited to see everybody here. So tonight what I'd like to revisit is a grade school lesson that I learned, and most of us have learned, about the hydrological cycle, where our water comes from, how we get groundwater, and why fracking is bad for this cycle. All right, so what happens is water vapor condenses and precipitation falls down. We get rain, snow, sleet, whatever your choice. Today I think we've had it all. And you get surface runoff. And the water is either soaked into the ground, runs off into lakes or streams, rivers, and eventually an ocean. Along the way there is evaporation and transpiration, which is over here. And it becomes our favorite thing, humidity. Rises back into the atmosphere, condenses, and forms water. So you see the cycle. We get groundwater from when it rains and soaks into the ground, which percolates and infiltrates into the ground strata through soil, sand, rocks, and ends up underground aquifers, or our groundwater. We then tap into it with a well. We water our garden, we feed our livestock, we bathe, we drink. It eventually ends up back in the septic systems, seep fields, or municipal water treatment plants, back into a stream, and back into the hydrological cycle. This is the basic hydrological cycle we work by. In the state of Illinois, we consume on the average of 925 gallons a day. Now add fracking to that cycle. If one well uses 5 million gallons and it's fracked 18 times, that's 90 million gallons of water per well. If the New Albany Shale gets fracked, like the Marcellus Shale in the Pennsylvania area, it will require 1.1 trillion gallons of water. 1.1 trillion gallons of water. It's a lot of trucks hauling our fresh water. So they take this fresh water, they mix it with chemicals, sand, and they inject it at 15,000 pounds per square inch under the Earth's surface. Next slide. Where it comes back up, loaded with lead, mercury, salts, normally occurring radioactive materials like radium and radon, as far as the other chemicals they added to it, just to name a few. But then the EPA deems this water toxic. The EPA deems it toxic. So what do they do with it? They haul it off to be injected into deep wells underneath the Earth's surface. Illinois has 7,900 deep injection wells, which are inspected every 5 years by one of the 12 inspectors that IDNR have. Now all that water, that fracked water, is safely stored 8,000 feet below the Earth's surface, permanently, forever, removed from the hydrological cycle. So what happens when we take all that water out of the hydrological cycle? There's less water on the ground, it means less evapotranspiration, it means air quality, or less in the air, it means eventually less precipitation, less water to recharge our underground water sources. And we end up with lakes and rivers drying up, crops don't grow, livestock and wildlife die. Water is a finite resource. We need it for all life on this planet. A study conducted by Tetra Tech for the USDA in 2010 and also quoted numerous times by NRDC in several articles states over and over again, current water use practices are not sustainable. And by the year 2050, 85% of Illinois will be at some risk for moderate to high water shortages. Now add fracking to that. This study that I'm talking about was conducted prior to all the water extractions used for fracking. When I spoke with Dr. Suji Roy, who did the study, I asked him about the rate of water consumption with fracking, and he said that this will drastically change his predictions. But by how many years he couldn't say. That research was not complete yet. So if fracking begins, will it be 10, 20, or 30 years before we reach that high risk category? It's an ISGS fact that 60% of all water in Illinois comes from groundwater sources. 90% of our rural populations in Illinois depend on groundwater as their only means of clean water. So it goes without saying that water is the source of all life. And remember, we can't drink money or gas.
Thank you very much, Tabby.